so overwhelmingly grand that it made you feel small, almost invisible. Now multiply that feeling 100 times, maybe 1,000, and you might just begin to grasp the magnitude of the creature we're about to uncover. This is the first fragment of a forgotten tale, a story from an age when true giants ruled the earth. Picture this, a single footprint pressed deep into the ancient mud, not just large but enormous, so wide you could sit comfortably inside it, as if nature itself had carved out a personal seat for you. That footprint is the legacy of a silent monarch, a king without a crown in a world long gone. And yet, history nearly erased its name. Who was it? Welcome to the journey of rediscovery. This is Argentinosaurus, the giant so massive it made continents tremble, now forgotten. Over 94 million years ago, the land we now call South America was still part of the ancient supercontinent known as Gondwana. Can you feel it? The air, warm and slightly humid, carried the earthy scent of towering ferns and damp soil after a summer rain. But what truly set this land apart were its colossal inhabitants. The footsteps of Argentinosaurus were so deep, so wide, that a person today could vanish inside one. And even then, calling it large feels like an understatement. Argentinosaurus wasn't just big, it was monumental, pushing the very limits of biological engineering. With an estimated length of roughly 100 to 130 feet, and a weight ranging anywhere from 70 to over 100 US tons, that's 140,000 to over 200,000 pounds, it dwarfed every other creature of its time, even the most fearsome predators. Argentinosaurus didn't just walk the earth, it commanded it, simply by being. But you know what? This epic story begins not with power, but with fragility. Imagine a warm, sandy riverbank or a soft patch of ground blanketed in decaying vegetation, a giant, natural incubator. In this quiet corner of the prehistoric world, a female Argentinosaurus uses her massive body to dig a shallow nest in the moist soil, layering it with rotting leaves and fresh mud. This is her nursery, the cradle of life. Dozens, maybe even hundreds, of eggs, each roughly the size of a soccer ball, are gently placed within. Then, one of the eggs begins to tremble. Cracks form along its shell, and out emerges a tiny, vulnerable life, born into a world far larger and far more dangerous than it can comprehend. Scientists believe that due to the limited size of the eggs, measuring only about 8 to 10 inches in diameter, the hatchlings weighed around 9 to 11 pounds at birth. That's about the size of a large house cat or a small dog, utterly defenseless in a realm filled with predators. The sobering truth, based on what we know about giant sauropods, the group of long-necked, plant-eating dinosaurs Argentinosaurus belonged to, and their reproductive behavior, is that these young dinosaurs were largely left to fend for themselves. The sheer number of eggs suggests an R-strategy life history quantity over parental quality care. Once the eggs were laid, instinct gave way to the harsh rules of nature. The eggs were buried and left to incubate, warmed not by a mother's body but by the ambient heat of the environment and the decay of the surrounding plant matter. When a hatchling broke free from its shell, it was alone, no protection, no guidance. Its fate rested entirely in the hands of chance. This was a survival strategy based on numbers. Much like sea turtles or salmon, Argentinosaurus relied on mass reproduction, laying vast numbers of eggs in the hope that a few would survive to adulthood. A single nesting site could hold hundreds of eggs, but only a handful of hatchlings might live beyond their first few days. Outside the eggshell was a world of constant danger. Small predatory dinosaurs, mid-sized carnivores like Scorpiovenator, and even hungry pterosaurs, those flying reptiles of the sky, All saw these newborn sauropods as easy prey. The tiny hatchling had to depend on its most primal instincts: hide beneath dense ferns, blend into the lush greenery, and most importantly, start feeding. Its first meal wasn't milk, but tender young leaves and fresh plant shoots, perhaps the low-lying ferns or newly sprouted cycads. Life for a baby Argentinosaurus began as a race against time. It had to eat fast, grow fast, and become too large for predators to target. Every day it stayed alive was a victory. It never stopped eating. Its tiny body worked like a biological growth engine. According to studies of growth rings found in fossilized bones, similar to the rings in a tree trunk, these animals grew at astonishing rates. Some researchers estimate they could gain dozens of pounds per day during their peak growth phase, perhaps even over 100 pounds daily. Research into related sauropods like Apatosaurus and Mapusaurus has revealed growth rings in their vertebrae, allowing paleontologists to estimate age and growth speed with surprising accuracy. This incredible growth required a constant, massive intake of vegetation. An adult Argentinosaurus could reach an astonishing length of 100 to 130 feet, about the length of a Boeing 737 airplane. Its weight ranged from 70 to over 100 US tons, making it up to 15 times heavier than a large African elephant and heavier than many small boats. Each step it took didn't just touch the earth, it shook it. Its footsteps echoed across the plains like distant thunder. Its body was a masterclass in evolutionary engineering. Its neck alone stretched around 30 feet, allowing it to reach the highest treetops, likely browsing on tall conifers unavailable to smaller herbivores. Each cervical vertebra was built like a honeycomb, hollow in the center to reduce weight, yet still structurally strong. Its long, muscular tail acted both as a counterbalance and potentially as a formidable defensive weapon against attackers. The leg bones of Argentinosaurus, especially the femur and tibia, were extraordinarily thick, some as wide as tree trunks, designed for maximum weight-bearing capacity. They had to support its entire massive frame without collapsing. All four legs were held straight beneath the body, forming sturdy columns like the stone pillars of an ancient temple. Unlike mammals, whose legs are often slightly bent, Argentinosaurus walked with a graviportal posture built for pure support and slow, deliberate movement. And then there's the brain. Tucked inside a small skull and protected by dense cranial bones, its brain was about the size of a grapefruit. While modest in scale, it was enough to handle essential functions like spatial awareness, motor control, and basic responses to threats. With a body so massive, its reflexes weren't quick, but speed wasn't necessary. Stability was its strength. The adult life of Argentinosaurus revolved around one primary goal: eating. To sustain such an enormous body, it needed a staggering amount of energy. Scientists estimate it had to consume hundreds, perhaps thousands, of pounds of plant matter every single day. Its diet likely consisted heavily of the abundant conifers, cycads, and vast quantities of ferns that flourished in the warm, humid Cretaceous climate of Gondwana. Processing such fibrous material required its enormous digestive tract, likely housing vast fermentation chambers filled with microbes to break down tough cellulose. It didn't chew its food like we do. Argentinosaurus, like most sauropods, had peg or spoon-shaped teeth, perfect for raking leaves off branches, but not for grinding them. The foliage was swallowed whole and sent straight into an immense digestive system. It may have even swallowed stones, known as gastroliths, to help break down plant material in its muscular stomach, although direct evidence for gastroliths in Argentinosaurus itself is lacking. From its long neck to its balloon-like belly and columnar legs, Every part of its anatomy was fine-tuned for one purpose: to eat, digest, and grow. It was, in every sense, one of the greatest feeding machines nature ever created. To support its colossal size, Argentinosaurus had a skeletal system that was nothing short of a biological marvel. Consider its vertebrae. Some of the dorsal vertebrae discovered are over 5 feet tall, taller than many adult humans. If these bones had been completely solid, their weight would have made movement nearly impossible. But nature had a clever solution. Much like modern birds, the enormous vertebrae of Argentinosaurus contained an intricate network of hollow spaces. These cavities likely held air sacs connected to its respiratory system, dramatically reducing the weight of the bones while maintaining their structural integrity. These air sacs not only lightened the skeleton, but were likely part of a highly efficient, bird-like respiratory system. This system would have facilitated the one-way flow of air through the lungs, maximizing oxygen uptake crucial for sustaining the metabolic demands of such a gigantic animal. Imagine the sheer volume of air passing through this system with every breath. It's one of evolution's most remarkable tricks, a giant creature with a surprisingly lightweight skeleton, enabling it to reach such unbelievable dimensions. Argentinosaurus likely didn't roam alone. While we haven't found direct fossil evidence of group behavior, comparisons with other sauropods and indirect clues suggest they may have traveled in large herds. Just imagine the scene: the ground quaking under the footsteps of dozens of Argentinosaurus, clouds of dust rising into the air. Their sheer presence would have been awe-inspiring, and their numbers offered protection in a world full of predators. At that size, most predators knew to keep their distance, but not all of them. Sharing the same South American landscape with Argentinosaurus was a fearsome giant of its own, Mapusaurus. Mapusaurus was a massive theropod, part of the Carcharodontosauridae family, a lineage of formidable predators with blade-like teeth, related closely to the more famous Giganotosaurus. These were not your average hunters. They were apex predators, built for power and precision. Mapusaurus itself could reach lengths of roughly 33 to 40 feet, about the size of a city bus. And what made them especially dangerous was the growing body of evidence suggesting they may have hunted in coordinated groups. Paleontologists have discovered multiple Mapusaurus skeletons of varying ages buried together at the same fossil site, hinting at complex social behavior and perhaps even pack hunting. The very presence of such large predators alongside Argentinosaurus paints a vivid picture of the Cretaceous food web dynamics. Now imagine the unthinkable, a confrontation between giants. Even a full-grown Argentinosaurus could struggle against an organized group of predators. A pack of Mapusaurus, moving with intention, jaws lined with serrated teeth, could single out a target, a juvenile that hadn't yet reached its full size, an older individual slowing down at the rear of the herd, or even a healthy adult caught alone, separated from the safety of numbers. We don't know how often these hunts occurred, or how successful the Mapusaurus were in bringing down such colossal prey. But the fact that such a predator existed in the same ecosystem speaks volumes. Even for the largest land animal to ever walk the earth, life was never truly safe. Size offered protection, but it was never a guarantee. Time moved on, slowly and steadily, across the vast plains of ancient South America. And like all living things, Argentinosaurus, too, had to face the inevitability of death. Estimating the lifespan of Argentinosaurus is challenging. Some scientists believe it may have lived for several decades, possibly even longer, similar to many of today's large reptiles. But with age came decline. Its joints began to stiffen. Its massive digestive system grew less efficient. Movement became harder, and for a creature that weighed over 100 tons, a single fall could spell the end. One final, labored breath echoed into the stillness of the Cretaceous forest. And just like that, one of Earth's greatest giants was gone. Yet, the death of a titan gave life to many others. Its carcass became a feast, drawing in scavengers of every kind, from smaller carnivorous dinosaurs to opportunistic insects. Slowly, nature reclaimed its own. The massive body broke down, returning vital nutrients to the soil that had nourished it for so long. And then, silence. The giant was gone, but its story was not over. The conditions had to be just right for its remains to survive the age's rapid burial by sediment, perhaps in a river channel or floodplain, was essential to prevent complete decay and scavenging. For millions upon millions of years, the world above changed. Continents drifted apart as the ancient supercontinent of Gondwana broke into pieces. Climates shifted. New species rose and fell in the endless cycle of life and extinction. Mountain ranges rose and eroded. But deep beneath the earth, untouched by time, its fossilized bones remained. A silent monument to a world long lost, waiting patiently to be uncovered once again. Now let's fast forward through time. Millions of years pass in the blink of an eye, until we arrive at the late 20th century. It was 1987, in the windswept plains of Neuquén Province, Patagonia, Argentina. A local farmer named Guillermo Heredia was out working the land when he stumbled upon something strange buried in the soil. At first glance, it looked like a giant petrified log, but as he took a closer look, he realized there was something unusual about it. It was too massive, too smooth, and the shape didn't quite match wood. It looked like bone. Word of the discovery quickly reached Argentina's paleontological community. Two of the country's leading paleontologists at the time, Dr. José Bonaparte and Dr. Rodolfo Coria, were called in. They traveled to the site Heredia had identified, and what they uncovered would send shockwaves through the scientific world. Extracting these behemoth fossils was a monumental task in itself, requiring specialized equipment like plaster jackets and cranes, and painstaking care to unearth the fragile, stone-heavy bones from the Patagonian rock without causing further damage. But here's the twist in the story of Argentinosaurus. They didn't find a complete skeleton. There was no skull, no full set of leg bones, no tail. Instead, what they found were scattered remnants of an enormous animal, just fragments of a much bigger picture. Among the fossils were a few gigantic vertebrae, each one towering at over 5 feet tall. There were long, curved ribs, a massive tibia, the lower leg bone, and part of the sacrum where the spine connects to the pelvis. And that was it. Imagine the challenge. From this handful of colossal bones, scientists were tasked with reconstructing what would become one of the largest creatures ever known to walk the earth. They had to rely heavily on comparisons with more complete skeletons of related titanosaurs, like Saltosaurus and Patagodon, using phylogenetic bracketing and anatomical principles to estimate the missing proportions. The Argentinosaurus we know today, the icon of prehistoric gigantism, is a masterpiece built from the smallest of clues, pieced together with care, imagination, and rigorous scientific methodology. In 1993, Bonaparte and Coria officially named the new species, Argentinosaurus huinculensis. The name Argentinosaurus means Argentine lizard, honoring the country of its discovery. Huinculensis refers to the Huincul Formation, the geological layer in which its fossils were found. That name would go on to become a symbol, not just of sheer size, but of the incredible range of life that once roamed the land, and of Argentina's rich paleontological legacy. It represents how much we can still uncover from the past, and how much of the story remains to be told. And so, through scattered fossil fragments and the careful work of scientific reasoning, we've pieced together the incredible life story of an Argentinosaurus, from a tiny egg nestled in the warm earth to a towering giant that once ruled the land. But this isn't just a tale of bones and measurements. The story of Argentinosaurus is a testament to the resilience of life. It's about extraordinary adaptation. It's about the breathtaking scale and wonder of a natural world that existed long before us. It reminds us that Earth was once home to creatures far beyond the scope of our imagination. And it humbles us with the truth that countless secrets still lie hidden beneath our feet, waiting to be uncovered. Thank you for joining me on this unforgettable journey back through time to meet Argentinosaurus. If this story moved you, inspired you, or sparked your curiosity, share it. Because who knows? Right beneath the ground you're standing on, there may be another legend still waiting to be named.